And this just in, Ukraine says its troops now practically control a key highway in the eastern Luhansk region. It connects two towns northeast of Liman, which have been major objectives for the Ukrainian forces. Ukraine is also fighting a battle on multiple other fronts right now. One is to keep the lights on after weeks of Russian strikes on its power system. President Volodymyr Zelensky says electricity restrictions are in place for 4 million Ukrainians. And the mayor of Kyiv says it'll take up to 3 weeks to fix all the damage. Well, meantime, Moscow is suggesting Ukraine's power situation will improve if Kyiv recognizes Russia's claims that it has annexed 4 Ukrainian regions. And on the battlefield. Ukrainians are preparing for an expected push to retake the strategic city of Kherson. Ukraine says Russia is now pouring in reinforcements while moving hospitals, ambulances, and doctors out of the city. Ukraine says there are now more soldiers than civilians on the streets. But President Zelensky says Russia's new reinforcements are hardly top-notch fighters.
Even if Russia tries to increase the pressure on our positions using mobilized people, they are so poorly prepared and equipped and are used in such a brutal way by their commanders that one can assume that soon Russia may need to send another wave of men to war.
Well, Kherson was the first major city captured by Russia, which was a key propaganda win for the Kremlin at the time. Russian troops are now on the defense as Moscow announced the end of its mobilization on Friday. But as Fred Plankin saw firsthand, Russian forces are still putting up a fight.
Rarely a quiet moment on Ukraine's southern front line. This mortar unit trying to hit Russian positions as part of Kyiv's quest to try and retake the key city, Kherson. But the Russians are fighting back.
Those are the cluster bombs. I don't know if you can hear them. They're hitting with cluster bombs. That's why we're hearing multiple explosions. They use the bombs all the time, but our boys are holding up.
The soldiers in this position say the Russians are showing no signs of wanting to retreat from this area.
There is constant shelling every day, mornings and nights, all day long. Artillery, cluster bombs, even though they are banned, shelling every day.
The battle for Ukraine's south is also important because this is the gateway for grain exports that feed much of the world. While there's an agreement to allow ships to pass after Russia blockaded Ukraine's ports early in the war, that deal is shaky. The authorities say this is a UN-chartered ship that can carry about 30,000 tons of grain. It's bound for Ethiopia. And the Ukrainians say they would be able to export grain even faster, but it's the Russians that are holding things up. The Russians have in turn blamed the Ukrainians and threatened to cancel the deal altogether. All this as Russia is sending more new recruits to the front lines. Ukraine's military saying around 1,000 are already on the front lines around Kherson. Vladimir Putin's defense minister telling the Russian president today that Moscow's mobilization has finished.
The call for mobilization was completed today. Draft notifications to citizens has been discontinued. The task set by you to mobilize 300,000 people has been fulfilled.
But the new recruits are already being put into untenable positions by the Russian army, the spokeswoman for Ukraine's Southern Military Command tells me.
They are trying to fill the holes in their units with mobilized people. They move their officers back. On the front line itself, they just leave so-called cannon meat because they know that our push will be powerful.
It's all the same to the mortar team near the front. Their task is to hit the enemy and not to get hit themselves. Fred Plankin, CNN, Chornomorsk, Ukraine.
Well, now to the UN, where Russia is calling for an investigation of alleged U.S. military biological activity in Ukraine. Russia's ambassador claims Ukraine operates more than a dozen biolabs with the help of the Pentagon. UN disarmament officials have long said they're not aware of any biological weapons programs in Ukraine. But Russia's ambassador persisted.
Do you really think that we're that naive? Do you really think that we think that the Pentagon is going to inform the High Representative of the Office of Disarmament Affairs within the UN about their secret biological programs in Ukraine?
Russia has called us here once again for the sole purpose of spreading disinformation. We all know these claims are pure fabrications brought forth without a shred of evidence. And I would even venture to say the Russian delegation knows these charges are fabricated, but they dutifully carry out marching orders from President Putin.
Ukraine has never ever developed, produced, or stored, alone or together with someone else, biological or chemical weapons. Our country does not possess a corresponding infrastructure for biological weapons development and production. Formally, this provocative issue has been already raised by Russia many times.
Well, any resolution put forward by Russia is likely to fail, since the U.S., Britain, or France could veto the measure. While Ukraine is turning up the pressure on Iran to stop its suspected drone sales to Moscow. Ukrainian officials say Russia has been using Iranian drones to attack infrastructure across the country, including its power system. Well, on Friday, Ukraine's foreign minister said he told his Iranian counterpart to end weapons sales to Russia. Iran later repeated its denials that it's selling drones to Moscow, but Ukraine's military says it's been shooting them down for weeks.
As of now, from September the 13th, when the first Shahed 136 kamikaze drone was shot down in Kupiansk until today, we have more than 300 shot down Shahed 136 kamikaze drones. Of course, there is also Mohajer, possibly other drones of smaller caliber which are also being shot down. But these are the results. Why are they using them less frequently now, and while before they used to use them every day? It's because they were available then. At present, we don't know how many Shahed 136 drones Russia has received and whether they were delivered by air, transport or via the Caspian Sea.
Well, the U.S. says it has abundant evidence that Russia is using Iranian drones.